Hello, Kaijudo fans. Welcome to Kaijudo 24/7. I'm Jared Dockstader, and today we're going to be going through the full set review of Invasion Earth, which is our newest set of Kaijudo coming out here. We're going to launch right into it, and all of our videos are going to be separated by color, and because of the nature of how the spoils, or how I had to go about getting the images up, we will be doing all the Super Bears and then the Light Civilization, and then every other civilization after that in separate videos. So this first video will include all the super rares from this set, and then move right into Light Civilization. So let's talk more rating here. We'll start with the first one, which is Cassiopeia Starborn. Now, all of these previews, the spoiler, I've only kind of looked at all the cards once. So as far as self-knowledge on the cards, I'm not. This will just be my initial reactions. So kind of take it with a grain of salt. So yeah, let's just launch into this right away. So the first one we got is Cassiopeia Starborn. Is a celestial dragon, cost 10. Triple breaks, supernova. When this creature enters the battle zone, tap all enemy creatures. They don't untap at the start of your opponent's next turn, and it's got 12,500 power. So first off, we had another awesome dragon, which is cool. Obviously we have the synergies with birds, and that ability, when this creature enters the battle zone, tap all enemy creatures. They don't untap at the start of your opponent's next turn. That is, I'm going to go ahead and say that's very strong. A board-wide Lyra seems very, very effective, especially with our untargetable Monarch running around in the meta. It's also pseudo removal. If you do have board presence before you stick this guy, it will effectively buy you a draw step against certain decks. Obviously, anything with evos or fast attackers might be able to bing, bang, boom, get you. But I still think this is a very strong card. We'll be using a rating scale, I guess. Let's go 1 to 5. I'll just be giving these cards a playability rating rather than a value guess. So I would give this probably a 4. I don't see this being too crazy as a 3 of as a finisher for any kind of list, but as a 1 or 2 of, it's definitely got some value. If we see control decks moving back towards using crystal memory a lot more, then definitely more of a 1 or 2 of. But if not, then probably 2. Just so if you see it late game, you see it. If you don't, you can. Or if you see it too early, you can just mana zone it and have another one up. But I think it's a very strong effect. A board-wide Lyra against an opponent could just win you the game at that point. The turn that this will come down could help you stabilize, buy you 2 or 3 draw steps. Very strong card. Definitely a 4 out of 5 on the Cassiopeia. Next up, advertisement. Next up, Warbringer Poseidon. He is a 7-drop. Corrupted Leviathan. So this is our first corrupted creature we're seeing in the spoiler here. Double breaks, 7,000 power. Mind wipe. Each time one of your corrupted creatures will be banished, return it to your hand instead. And Tainted Seas. You tap 2 fewer mana cards to summon corrupted creatures. I think given the power curve of corrupteds, just from what I've kind of looked, I think this guy's going to be a little underwhelming at 7. He could enable you to go turn 7 him, turn 8 boom 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 boom, 2 or 3 bodies, which I mean could be worth it, but I just don't see him being that big of a house. Maybe if you included him with something like a King Coral, use him in combination with King Coral, bounce their dudes, bounce your dudes. They can drop maybe 1 or 2 of their dudes, and then you drop way more than they do. But still pretty whatever. Might just be if someone can build around it and break it, then awesome. I would give this my initial reaction of a 3. I'm not going to write it off at a 1 or 2. I think corrupted creatures as a whole just need to be played a little bit more until before we kind of deem them really awesome or terrible. Those of you that come from Magic the Gathering, Slivers, I mean, it's the comparable thing. And Slivers, I actually wasn't around when it was in Standard. It's in Standard right now again, but it's not really played a whole lot. And the first time they printed it, though, it was pretty pretty ridiculous, I'm sure. And I've played against it in other formats, and just the whole tribal affiliated thing. We'll see how this kind of pans out. But as far as like the first corrupted super that I'm seeing here, yeah, definitely like a 2 or 3 out of 5. Moving on then, Magaria the Deceiver, 7-drop Dark Lord, 7,000, double breaks, and whenever this creature enters the battle zone, put the top 3 cards of your deck into your discard pile. Then, choose a card in your discard pile at random. If the card is a non-evolution creature, put it into the battle zone. Otherwise, return it to your hand. Okay, so we have like a pseudo bottle slash Kalima effect here with the mill, and then like bottle into graveyard pseudo, because you don't get a spell to cast. But I mean, it grabs any creature. Not too bad. I mean, if you build around this guy, if you're building around Magaria and Queen Kalima and oh, wow, why can't I think of the name? Our green red scary thorn lady. Man, wow, this is kind of embarrassing. Where I have a bunch of cards around me here. I don't think I have one out though. Wow. I cannot believe I am blinking. Necros. There we go. Necros Nightmare Bloom. Man. Whew. Okay. If you're running it in combination with that and Kalima's, and I mean, there's a lot of potential for just like really sick synergy there where you're getting a lot of triggers and kind of interacting with your graveyard. So, I mean, I definitely like that a lot. Opens up kind of that deck archetype where you're manipulating your graveyard a little bit more. But yeah, 3 or 4 on this guy. Leaning more towards 3. I think with the prevalence of with the prevalence of rush, I don't know, at 7, a 7 drop that could maybe get you another body is really that powerful. With how many quick decks are running around right now, so probably leaning more towards the 3. But yeah, Magaria the Deceiver, not too bad. Pretty interesting guy, girl, lady, Dark Lord. Next we have Palmion the Conquering, who those of you that may or may not follow the show, is the father of Tetsurion. And we got a 9-drop armor dragon. More armor dragons. Woo. 12k. Triple breaks. Gives all of your other armor dragons powerful attack 5,000, and they break an additional shield. And all your opponent's dragons can't attack. It's going to be very interesting. With the Birds of War decks that are running around in the meta, this guy, I don't know. I think this will be I think we'll see this card quite a bit. If Birds of War does continue to be very strong, I mean, it fits right into the Birds of War a little bit. It makes your other armored dragons just more juicy. Makes your turn 5 or turn 4 Herald into a double breaker. I mean, it does a lot of things for armored dragons there, as far as like giving them the ability to break an additional shield. It's a very strong finishing type card. And then the ability to manipulate your opponent's dragons and not let them attack. If the meta does get heavy armored dragons, and obviously he's very strong. It does say dragons instead of armored there on the intimidating presence, so that will stop celestial dragons, which is, Cassiopeia. Why do I want to call that? Cassiopeia and Lyra and Andromeda. I mean, it stops all the big scary fat dragons that we're seeing. It stops all of them from attacking. It's just like, whoa, hold on, you're just gonna stand there and I'm gonna go ahead and mess with your life. Of course, if your opponent has one in play and you have one in play, you're gonna turn into a top depth game waiting just for a removal. But I think that's a small price to pay for stopping your opponent's dragons from swooping in and taking you out. So I give this guy a 4. I mean, he triple breaks. He's a 9-drop. He doesn't really affect the board too much when he comes into play, which is going to be, again, tough in this environment where we have really solid like mid-range rush decks. But if we see more Birds of War running around, this guy definitely could warrant a 1 or 2 of in the list. Yeah, not too bad. The art's pretty sick. He's got some like fiery things going on with his face and his tail. Like, he's just on fire, literally on fire. That's crazy. Moving on, Almighty Colossus, our final monarch that we've been missing. Level 11, 17,000. Triple breaker. Pulverize. When this creature enters the battle zone, it battles target enemy creature. Primordial roar. When this primordial roar. Whenever this creature attacks, and whenever it becomes a target of one of your opponent's spells or abilities, reveal top 3 cards of your deck. You may put a nature creature from among them into the battle zone. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. And then, of course, the nature monarch ability. Each other nature creature gets plus 4,000. It is one of the redeeming things about this card, I think. Or I would say, is that the pulverize ability is a removal. I mean, it's when he comes into play, he's a removal, guaranteed. We do have removal in the form of the Black Monarch, could be a 3-for-1 potentially. The White Monarch, not so much. The Blue Monarch, no. The Red Monarch is removal as well. So, I mean, we've got 3 of the 5 monarchs that act as removal spells, and with the amount of hexproof running around, this guy might not be as powerful, but he'll munch pretty much anything else in the universe when he comes to the play. The ability to possibly flip into another one of him off of your top 3 is obviously Christmas Land amazing, but I think trying to gear towards nature creatures to make this ability hit is kind of interesting. We'll see how it works. I mean, Kalima's pretty good if you build it right, and then this guy will probably be pretty decent if you build it right. I actually see this probably seeing use in Ramp City or Huda Big Stuff, the deck played by I've been calling him Huda so long I can't remember his first name. Huda, he played at in the ARG event before the KMC started, and piloted like a bottle get lucky abusive deck, and I think this guy could probably just slot in there as a 1 or 2 of. You might need to modify your creature builds a little bit just so you can guarantee some hits, but I mean, it's just more abuse, more variance off the top of your deck there, which is, fine, fun. He doesn't have any kind of way of protecting himself, but this guy, I give it like a 3. Because like a 4 or 5 is something I could see like definitely being played like in every deck that plays the color. I don't think this guy belongs in every deck that plays green. So yeah, like a 3. Another ad. Speaking of ads, I might as well plug these guys here. Kaijudo, the Kaijudo wiki, which is managed by a group of guys, but I know Yami Michael, who is, I'm spacing on your name right now, dude, but does a lot of the managing on this site. And is definitely a presence in the community, so like thanks to him for putting this gallery up, because right now I actually tried to use the kaijudo.com card gallery, and yeah, that wasn't really working out. That something was happening with their website and it just wasn't loading, so here we are in the Kaijudo wiki, which is great, awesomely managed, pretty comprehensive if you're looking for anything at all concerning Kaijudo and cards, card database. So anyway, moving on here, we have level 4 Darkseer Jurlon, Enforcer Roddorm, 4,500. Whenever this creature attacks, your opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a spell from it, and your opponent discards that spell. Whenever one of your creatures becomes a target of one of your opponent's spells, you may tap or untap target creature. Wow. We have Rotworm Evos. I don't think they're particularly powerful, but you never know. And then Enforcers, obviously we have very strong Enforcers. As far as the Dark Splash in an Enforcers deck, I'm not sure that's really the greatest. But let's talk about these abilities here. This will be the first time we see something similar to this. The first one, Scrying Gems. The ability to just pick a spell out of your opponent's hand can be very strong. The issue I think right now is, again, with all the mid-range and rush decks running around, there's going to be a lot of creature-heavy hands. A mono-light rush deck might hold on to maybe some sort of Blade Barrier, or if it's like kind of later, maybe they're trying to hold on to a Stormstrike Blast, maybe. Against your control lists, this is obviously very strong. But with the amount of Keeper of Laws and Man, it's been like 3 or 4 weeks since I played, so that is why I'm just spacing on all of these names. Cyber Sprites, not Cyber Sprites. Definitely awful here. Cyber Scamps. There we go. The amount of Cyber Scamps right now. I know control lists have been kind of shying away from some of the removal spells, early spells. But I mean, coming down turn 4 and picking a like a pseudo board wipe against a smaller aggro list out of their hand is probably pretty strong. Like taking their Drill Storm or Toxic Fog or Bone Blades or something of that sort is, definitely worth there. Probably just a meta call card, and you have to be playing these colors. And the second ability is another interesting one. It'll buy you a turn maybe against an aggro. I don't know. I don't think it's that impactful. I could be incorrect, but like against a control deck, if they're going to cast a spell, it's probably going to be pretty backbreaking, and for you to tap one of their dudes is kind of like or untap a target creature. Okay, so if you're playing blockers, I guess you could whenever one of your creatures becomes target of one of your opponent's spells. So okay, in a rush list this is okay. If you hit a shield break and you've already swung with another dude, you can untap that dude, which is pretty good. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good as a 4-drop. Okay, you hear me seesaw on this card. Like I said, I've only seen these cards like once. I haven't really looked at them too hard yet. We haven't started testing. I think we're gonna, as a team, we're gonna start doing that this week. So yeah, let's give this a 3. I think we're gonna hear a lot of 3s from me just because this is initial reactions, and I don't like to like foo-foo a card until I've played with it and done some serious testing. But yeah, a 3. I could see this like scene play in a black white kind of midish rushes list. Wouldn't be terrible. General AO, Major AO. That's okay. I'm a Choten army guy, so yeah. Level 5 Fire Nature, Firelight, Skyforce champion Dracon. He's a blocker. He's a fast attacker, and whenever he wins a battle for the first time, you can untap him. So we saw this ability on Tetsurion, on a version of Tetsurion, where when he wins a battle, he untaps, and he can just keep going. This guy just triggers once for the first time each turn, which is fine. Very powerful card, especially at level 5. Unfortunately, he is not a dragon, so we won't see any like bird tricks with him. But I mean, turn 5, dropping a dude and being able to swing in and knock out one of their attackers and untap and then swing again and knock out another attacker is definitely strong against some of the lists that we're seeing running around. 4,500 kind of makes him not as great against something like Monolite Rush. But he'll still, I mean, like you'll almost always get value out of him against a rush matchup because he does a fast attack on that turn 5. So, sometimes he'll get you before you can get your turn 5, but turn 5, if you can get like reasonable shield blast, then drop him, you might just be enough to stabilize you. And then he does block, so he can just kind of chill out if you're not ready to attack with him, and it's not like you're losing value. So I would definitely give this guy a 4. He would be a 5 if he was a dragon, obviously. But 4, definitely a very strong card that I could see us seeing a couple copies of him running around in lists at the Grinders and Championships, because that's the only time we're going to see these guys, or the first time we're going to see any of these cards. So moving on here, we've got Elder Titan Aurelia. Let's actually zoom in a little bit more there. So we've got a level 7 Skyforce champion Colossus, an Evo. So Evo's on the Skyforce champion Colossus. A double breaker, and then each time a spell that is level 7 or less would enter your mana zone from your deck, you may cast it for free instead. 2. I'm gonna give this a 2. It's just like you have to ramp into your base Skyforce champion, and then you have to pull him, and then you have to evo him, and then you have to have another ramp spell left over to be able to use to like get the trigger, and then you have to maybe hit a spell. I mean, there's a lot of ifs on this guy. Pretty subpar as far as like Skyforce champions and Colossuses in general are just a very high cost tribes. So I don't really see this guy doing a whole lot of work for us. Maybe in the future if we see some cheaper ones, but even then, I mean, the needing to hit a spell off of top from a mana ramp is like when you want to have enough bodies to have bait for this guy to evo on top of is kind of asking for a lot, I think. I mean, art is definitely pretty sick. I mean, he looks huge. You see some mountains. I do have a mouse here. See some mountains way back in the background there. So this guy's big, but it's not flavor wise. It doesn't necessarily reflect that well in the power. I mean, we're a little spoiled with the monarchs, but yeah, I don't see this guy making a whole lot of waves. Maybe a 2. I'd put him a 2. Moving on. All right, now we have general. Oh, see, now I'm zoomed in too far. Zoom back out. Yeah, there we go. So now we have the Choten Army General Chosen. Okay, get out of there. General Charzan Chosen. Charzan. Level 6. Evo. So we can evolve him on a corrupted creature or an armored dragon. And then corrupted commander. All your corrupted creatures have power attack 5,000 and double break. Not the scariest. Like he gives himself double break, which is fine. He gives himself powerful attack 5,000. But I think he kind of falls in the same category and runs into the same issues as Kendrix. Kendrix was a 6-drop dragon, unblockable, double broke. But it was really hard to like get a dragon out and then want to evo on top of that dragon, because you just already had so much value in the dragon that you had already put out. So I get like the plus side on all of these corrupted evos, and I want to talk about it briefly, is that they can evo onto corrupted creatures. So I mean, you could have like a dinky little 3 or 4 drop corrupted creature out that you already got value out of, and you could just plop this guy on top of. I mean, I think the cheapest corrupted we have is 2. I'm not sure, like I said, one time through the set. So I mean, for 8 mana you can get a fast attacking double breaker that gives your other corrupteds double breaking, which could be back breaking. I don't know, we'll have to see what kind of lists develop with the corrupted creatures. Man, 3. I guess I give this guy a 3. The ability to evolve on any corrupted creature is like really strong, I think. I mean, we kind of saw that in Shapeshifter Skardorble, who could evo on anything, and that's like it gives you a lot of flexibility and utility in certain situations in certain decks, and I think that's, something to take into account when you're looking at any of the corrupted evos. Next up, another version of our homeboy Tetsurion the Brawler, 6-drop Beastkin armor dragon protector, which is our new mechanic from this set. You may tap this creature to change an attack on one of your other creatures to this creature. So it's kind of like a buddy thing. He'll hop in front of any of your other guys, but he won't hop in front of you. Just kind of mean, I guess. That's interesting flavor wise, but yeah. And he double breaks. And Fierce Friend, whenever one of your creatures that has Skardorble or Glurgle and its name is attacked, untap this creature, and this creature gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. I mean, flavor wise, if you watch the cartoon, this is like really pretty cool. I mean, Skardorble and Glurgle are the I guess your mascot creatures for Gabe and Nadia. No, not Nadia. Nadia's the master. Man, I can't think of that little girl's name. Yeah, but they're the creatures for Ray's buddies in the TV show. So, I mean, buddy system. He's protecting his friends. Maybe like this just forces you to play 4-color though if you're playing this guy, because you got your fire, your nature, and then Squeaky's only ever been in darkness, and then Glurgle obviously water. I mean, you could be playing the Squeaky Evil and be playing just 3-color, but I just don't see that. I mean, well, it could be a thing. I don't know, but I just don't see that right now. Especially like this guy's it's just so weird. He doesn't like if he fast attacked, maybe it would be worth it because like you could rumble in and you could rumble in with your squeakies or your glurgles, and then the counter swing you could hop up and defend some dudes. But that's a stretch. We'll give this guy a 2. I won't give him a 1 because he's Tetsurion. He's a pretty beefy dude. I mean, look at those arms, man. Probably give Rob Grubber a run for his money there. Let's move on here. Hey, we're into the Light Civilization. So again, we're gonna lump the supers in with the Light Civilization as first video, so it'll be a little longer. But then as we move into the other videos, those will be shorter. It'll just be the single colors. So first up, we have Arc Ward, 2-drop. Choose one of your creatures at the end of the turn, untap it, and it gains blocker until the end of your next turn. 2. I mean, it's not awful. Being able to swing and then like be aggressive and then untap that dude and have it be able to block for you is pretty decent, I think. But it's not. It just feels like a wasted slot. I mean, like if the metagame was really aggressive, I could see this putting in some work, because then you could like just out aggro them, being able to be really aggressive and pull your guys back and be blockers. It does expose a creature to Comet Missile, I guess, on the opposing player's turn. But I mean, being able to bring a dude back up and block in a very rush heavy meta is very strong. Just because you could just outrush them. They're not probably going to have any shield blasts. And then it doesn't trigger till end of turn. So, I mean, even if you shield break a Comet Missile with the dude, it's not going to be able to target your guy until it wouldn't, because he wouldn't be a blocker yet. So, I mean, rush heavy meta, I would definitely play around with this card. Otherwise, I don't see it being that crazy. Like, even in a control deck, it's kind of whatever. Like, you might want it in a rush heavy meta again, just so you can like swing with your Lyra, kill a dude, and then have your Lyra untap and be able to block. But even then, there's just so much tempo running around that they just bounce it out of the way. So if you're playing a rush or mid-rangey list and you're in a rush heavy meta, then I would definitely see this card doing some work for you. Detain, 1-drop, Shield Blast. Your opponent chooses one of his or her untapped creatures in the battle zone. Tap that creature. Very interesting. It is one of those cards where your opponent chooses, so it does get around hexproof. Hexproof, what do we call it in this? Oh, there's no keyword for it yet, but I mean, if a creature on your opponent's side of the field has this creature cannot be targeted by your spells or abilities your opponent control, this will be able to target them because your opponent is choosing the creature. It's like weird because it kind of falls into the category of the Dragon Strike Infernus cycle of spells, where like they would pick one of their untapped dudes and either mana zone it or kill it. And on your turn as a hard casted spell, it could force them to tap down a blocker. It could tap down one of their, it could open up a dude to removal. It's a very interesting card, especially at 1 mana. It turns on Twilight Archons. Twilight Archon will be able to snipe a dude for 1 mana. I can see this card being like a tech card. I would have to play with it a bit. I'll optimistically put it at people are gonna kill me. I'll optimistically place this at a 4 4 out of 5. I mean, with all the rush decks running around, being able to like drop your turn 2 blocker and then turn 3 drop another 2-drop blocker and detain something and kill it, or like you'd rather be proactive with your blockers right now, I think, in this meta with the amount of bounce that's running around. So I mean, this just helps that out. So yeah, I'll put that at a 4. Moving on, we have Graviton Generator, level 4 Enforcer, blocker, skirmisher, and the ability G-Force. Whenever this creature blocks, tap target enemy creature. 4K. So it's a 4-drop 4K blocker that acts as a Star Lantern. and it is an enforcer as well. Now, the issue with this card, if you're thinking about trying to put it in an enforcer list, is that it does have skirmisher, so it can't do anything proactive. But on the flip side, again, in a rush heavy meta, this would be a very strong card. You drop it, tap a dude, black a dude, tap another dude. I know a lot of people, when you talk about Star Lantern, which has a similar ability where when it blocks, you can tap one of the other dudes. The complaint was that a good player is going to play around it. But the issue is, or my counter argument, I guess, would be that, but they have to, like, you're making them play around it. You're making your opponent play to your board state. You're not letting them dictate what's happening with the field. So I think that's a very strong thing to consider. I think the Star Lantern's only a 2K. I could be incorrect. I haven't looked at that dude in a long time, but he's a 3-drop 2K, does the same thing. So I don't know that 4 for 4,000 is that much better, but it could be. I mean, I could see this guy running around with anything that plays Haven in the top end, because he serves as a 2 for 1 when he blocks. So it's not something to be disregarded completely. So I would give this guy a 4. I'll go ahead and just say a 4. I think that ability is something to be aware of. The ability to tap one of your opponent's dudes when he blocks. I think it's something that needs to be played around and is worthwhile looking into and testing with. Next up, Haven's Elite, 6-drop Skyforce champion, double breaker, and Oathbound. Each time this creature, one of your other non-evolution Skyforce champions, would be banished, putting your shield zone face down as a new shield instead. So, interesting. I've kind of always found that the face down as a new shield ability is kind of underwhelming, unless you're playing something like a Cyberlord Coral. Right? Coral? Yes. Where you can, the ability to pick up a shield and put a new shield down. I think that's when it works best. But when you look at something like Serpens, it's slightly stronger because you're not necessarily putting like for sure dead shield into mana. You could be putting juice in there, whereas this you're definitely putting, like, they know what's under that shield. They know it's a dude. He doesn't block, so it's not like he's going to be able to come back down and like save you another shield, a la the promo we had for League however long ago. Flare inhibitor I'm thinking of, I think. So it's kind of an interesting ability, and this is one of our 4-star rares. It's just, I just don't know that it's that strong. I mean, someone brew it and prove me wrong, and I will definitely. It's like I said, these are all my initial reactions. So, I would give this a 3, maybe a 3. 6 for 6K that double breaks. It's just like, that's pretty even as it is, and then you just have this like maybe relevant ability. So yeah, not too bad. Ion Cruiser, 5-drop Storm Patrol, 5,500. So just a vanilla dude, common. Art's pretty sleek. Those almost look like, people are gonna kill me for this, to like Star Trek things, Star Trek badges, kind of ish, maybe. I'm not really a Star Trek guy, but art's pretty neat. I don't know if this is a reused art. Some of you people out there might that play Duel Masters, but yeah, pretty good. Doesn't evo into anything right now. Doesn't. I think there might be one Storm Patrol evo, but just whatever. A 5,500. Sun Mote Field. Ooh, this is the card that I looked at when I was going through it initially. I was like, neat. 7-drop Shield Blast. Until the start of your next turn, creatures can't attack you. It's like a half of a Squilla Scourge. Squalachi, as we found out from the episodes. But Squalachi Scourge. It's like a half of a Squalachi Scourge. And on a Shield Blast, I think that is very powerful. I mean, it won't open up your opponent's creatures to removal like a shield, a Sunspark Blast would, but I think the ability to just freeze your opponent's field is very strong. If you get to the really, really, really late game and we see decks moving back towards Keeper of Dawn, this could be very scary. I mean, 7 mana, you can't attack. Like if you shield break it and then they Keeper of Dawn, pull it back, and then they have enough mana because you're into the really late game where they can just recast it. I mean, you're getting into some shenanigans territory, Christmas Landy kind of, but I think this card can definitely see play with the amount of rush running around and the amount of spell hate in general, as far as like Keeper of Laws and Cyber Scamp. It's not as necessarily powerful, but I mean, I could still, if like even against a Scamp, if you're playing the right list, it could be very strong. I know I found myself casting spells against Scamps knowing that I have a follow-up removal, you know, on a shield break. If I have a Toxic Fog in hand, I'm like, okay, I'll definitely use a shield break to kill this bigger dude, and then I'll Toxic Fog and get like a 2-for-1 guaranteed because you just tutored another Scamp out. So I think this card's gonna see play. Maybe not as a 3-of. I don't think I would feel safe playing as a 3-of, but I mean, just the ability to shut down your opponent's field for a turn is just very strong. And worth looking into, especially since you can hard cast it on your turn and it'll roll through the next turn. I mean, that's what makes it a little stronger than Stormspark Blast, is that it'll roll. Like Stormspark, if you hard cast in your main phase, they're going to get an untap step, whereas this, you're going to cast it, they'll get an untap step, but they're not going to be able to do anything with their combat phase. So well, they can attack creatures. No, it even says the reminder text they can still attack your creatures, but you know, I still think it's a very strong card. Moving on. Oh, shoot. Did I give it a number? 4. I will give it a 4 out of 5. Next up, Whip Sentry, level 6, 6,500. Blocker, Double Breaker. It's a rare. I think it's a rare just because it is Skyforce, so it's Evo bait for the 7-drop we saw earlier. It does block. I just feel like you'd rather drop a Lyra on turn 6, though. Like 6,500 is just okay. Yeah, you'd almost just rather have a Lyra in that spot, unless you're playing, unless I guess I could see this supplementing something where you're really trying to abuse like Eternal Haven. Then yes, obviously this is, you know, kind of better than a Lyra. Just because it can block and it doesn't have Skirmisher, so it can attack with a double breaking. So you know, I'll give it a 3. 3, because I still think Lyra's, I think I'd rank Lyra higher yet, even with the synergy with Haven on this guy.